Welcome to Girl Scouts of Central and Southern New Jersey Cupboard Manager online training. During the training, we will cover several topics. The first one will be the definition of a cupboard. As you can see from the information on the slide, these are volunteer-managed distribution locations. They are usually located in a volunteer's home or garage, but can be located in other convenient areas. The operating hours of cupboards are set by the volunteer cupboard manager. Cupboard locations are particularly important for areas that are far from one of our truck or warehouses. But cupboards are also useful for those who may be close to a truck or warehouse, but are able to offer more convenient pickup times for the local volunteers. Cupboard managers are an important part of managing a volunteer cupboard. We'll get into that information in the next slide as we go over considerations before starting your cupboard. A cupboard manager is more than just a person who has adequate room in their home to store hundreds of cases of cookies. The cupboard manager should be a person who has the time and the availability to accurately manage orders and inventory throughout the cookie sale. In addition, the cupboard location needs to have space for at least 150 cases, because that is the minimum number of cases required for a truck to perform a delivery to a local volunteer cupboard. Cupboards should also be ideal food storage locations. They should not be in damp areas, areas that are too hot or too cold, and they should be free of vermin or rodents. In addition, you want to consider whether or not your service unit will have enough planned orders to keep your cupboard going. In some cases, you may need to reach out to your neighboring service units in order to run your cupboard. For example, your neighbors might have planned orders for 75 cases, and your service unit might have orders for 75 cases. This would help you to be able to get a delivery. We'll get into the details about distribution of cookies from our trucks to one of our volunteer cupboards in a future slide. Let's move on to the role of the cupboard manager. The cupboard managers must take training for their position. This online training will satisfy that requirement for the 2013 cookie program. The cupboard manager is also responsible for storing, distributing, and inventorying cookie cases for the troops and the Juliets in the given area. In addition, they will create, edit, delete, and approve planned orders for their cupboard. They must also communicate effectively with other volunteers and reinforce GSCSNJ planned order procedures for their cupboards. And lastly, they must have internet access in order to maintain accurate records. If you are considering becoming a cupboard manager and do not have internet access, please contact us as soon as possible. Now let's explore how cupboards are stocked. Cupboards are stocked in two ways. First, they receive their initial inventory for their order that was placed back in December. Then, any additional orders would be restock inventory, which would arrive after the planned orders for the week have been reviewed. For the 2013 cookie program, initial inventory orders for volunteer cupboards have already taken place. The initial inventory orders, which were given to us from volunteers, were adjusted in some cases to better match what information we had from the prior year's cookie sale. You may notice that quantities have been increased or decreased to match the variety of cookies and the total number of cases. After the initial inventory delivery has been made, cupboards will receive additional deliveries if there are planned orders from their volunteers requesting their cupboard as a pickup location. Cupboard restocks are based on the planned orders for a given week with a cutoff of Monday at 10 a.m. At that point, Girl Scout Council and the volunteer will work together to plan whether or not there will be a delivery of additional cookie cases, or if the volunteers will be redirected to one of the truck or warehouse locations as the cupboard is unable to fulfill the orders. Council will place restock orders for the volunteer cupboards based on current available inventory and planned orders. This process depends heavily on accurate record keeping in ABC Snap software. We will be able to view the actual inventory in a volunteer cupboard through the Snap system. For example, if there are 35 cases of Thin Mints in the cupboard and the planned orders for the week are for 20 cases of Thin Mints, Council will not arrange for the delivery agent to deliver Thin Mints to that cupboard based on the inventory that we are viewing in ABC Snap. Now let's move on to deliveries for the cupboards. Cupboard managers who are receiving deliveries will be contacted by one of the agents to arrange for a delivery date and time. The latest that you would receive your delivery would be on a Friday. However, based on availability of the delivery agent, you could get a delivery on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Before the delivery date, Council will send an order summary to the cupboard manager so that he or she can verify the order that will be arriving from the agent. After verifying all varieties and quantities and reporting any damaged cases, the cupboard manager will sign an M8X form provided by the driver. It is imperative that all cases are verified before the driver leaves the cupboard site. Part of the role as cupboard manager is to manage planned orders for the volunteers in your area. Next, we will explore the different options that you have in terms of managing planned orders. Cupboard managers will have the ability to create, edit, approve, and delete planned orders for their cupboards. Cupboard inventory in Snap is updated automatically when orders are approved. There may be times when volunteers are having difficulty creating a planned order in Snap. In those instances, the cupboard manager would need to create a planned order on behalf of the volunteers' troop. First, you would need to obtain an order reference number from the troop's planned order paper form, also known as the T4. Then you would log into Snap, go to the Cookies icon, select Planned Order from the drop-down menu, and proceed entering the varieties of cookies for the planned order. In other instances, you may find that you need to edit a planned order. A lot of times you'll find that editing a planned order is necessary in order to enter an order reference number or to edit the varieties of cookies. In some cases, volunteers have found that someone has entered a planned order in packages instead of cases. You certainly want to edit those orders before they show as pending orders for your cupboard. Remember, volunteers can take fewer cases, but never more than indicated on the T4 planned order form, and this is by variety. Planned order varieties cannot be switched, so you may not swap 5 Caramel Delights for 5 Thin Mints, even though that does not change the total number of cases being requested in the planned order. Once cookies have been picked up and signed for at the cupboard, you will need to approve the planned order in SNAP. If a volunteer took exactly what was on the planned order form, simply approve the order. If a volunteer has taken less than the planned order, you will need to edit that planned order to match what the volunteer has actually taken, and then approve the order in SNAP. There will be many times when you will need to delete a planned order. There may be a time when a volunteer does not pick up cookies during the week of his or her planned order. Please keep in mind that you may not hold orders for volunteers to pick up. If they do not pick up their order by Sunday, then you must delete their planned order. A volunteer may also erroneously enter a duplicate order. In that case, you would delete their planned order and leave one correct planned order in the system. And lastly, a volunteer may not be allowed to pick up additional cookies due to special circumstances. Your service unit cookie manager would alert you to what those might be. Next, we will talk about cupboard inventory. Managing cupboard inventory is made easier through the use of the ABC SNAP system. It will help you to see the same thing that we at Council will see in terms of cupboard inventory, planned orders that are pending, and approved orders, which will decrease the amount of cookies in your inventory in SNAP. When we talk about inventory, there's two types of inventory that are tracked, and they should match each other. There is the actual physical inventory, that is, the cookie cases you see sitting in your cupboard. And then there's the inventory as shown in SNAP. The inventory shown in SNAP has to be updated regularly in order for it to accurately reflect what the actual physical inventory is. To help you manage your inventory better, there are several inventory reports that we will review. The 3 reports that we will review include the Cupboard Activity Summary, the Cupboard Inventory Report, and the Planned Order Report. One of the most helpful reports is the Cupboard Activity Summary. You will find this in SNAP under the Reports tab, and it is listed as a summary report. The Cupboard Activity Summary lists in date order all incoming and outgoing cases of cookies for any given cupboard. The incoming cases would be for your deliveries, such as your initial order delivery for your cupboard and any restocks that you may receive. The type column indicates what type of transaction occurred at the cupboard. An I stands for the initial cupboard delivery. A T indicates a transfer that was created by approving a planned order to the cupboard. Each of the negative numbers on the report indicate planned order cases that have been taken from the cupboard. For every planned order T4 form that you have, there should have a corresponding entry in the Cupboard Activity Summary. As you can see in this screenshot, each row corresponds to one of the T4 planned order forms. Now we'll move on to the Cupboard Inventory Report. The Cupboard Inventory Report represents actual physical inventory at the cupboard location by variety. This report is used by Council to determine how many cases and varieties remain at each location throughout the cookie sale. It is imperative that planned orders are approved, edited, and deleted by the cupboard manager in a timely manner in order for this report to be accurate. Cupboard managers should look at the cupboard inventory report and count the actual physical inventory in the cupboard. These numbers should match. If they do not, you will need to reconcile and go through the T4 planned order forms that you have to find out where the discrepancy lies. Now we'll discuss the planned order report. The planned order report lists all the planned orders pending for your cupboard. All troop requests for cookies from a cupboard must be in the form of a planned order. You may find that you are having a conversation with a volunteer on the phone who is making arrangements to pick up cookies from your cupboard, but please remind them that you will need a planned order T4 form and order reference number to be entered in SNAP as a planned order before they can come to pick up cookies. You may want to save the planned order report for your cupboard each Monday at approximately 11 a.m. The reason for this is that once a planned order is deleted or approved, it will no longer be in the planned order summary report in SNAP. As you can see, the planned order summary provides the troop number, the name of the volunteer, the phone number and email address of the volunteer, and the pickup date. The pickup date is not necessarily the date that the volunteer will come to your cupboard. What's important to note is that all of the pickup dates are listed as Fridays. You actually will be in charge of setting up the pickup date for your volunteers. To simplify matters, Council has selected Friday dates for SNAP as the planned order date for all of our volunteer cupboards. As you can see, the service unit cupboard requires a lot of work in the ABC SNAP software. There will be detailed lists with step-by-step instructions in the Service Unit Cupboard Manager Guide. It will include screenshots for the various ordering and inventory tasks that we have covered in this training. Now let's talk about closing out a cupboard at the end of the cookie program. There are 3 steps in finalizing your inventory. First, you will need to count the physical inventory at the cupboard location by variety. Please remember to write this information down to make it easier for you, because in step 2, you will then compare the physical inventory to the cupboard inventory report from SNAP. You will research and reconcile any discrepancies so that all case counts and varieties in the cupboard match the cupboard inventory report. Our council's goal is to have 0 inventory at the end of the sale. If there are cases remaining at the conclusion of the cookie program, council will make arrangements to have these cases dropped off or picked up. Cupboard managers will need to submit paperwork to council. The paperwork that is required is a printed copy of the cupboard activity summary and all signed planned order T4 forms arranged in the order of the cupboard activity summary. You can staple these together. You will need to send this to GSCSNJ, East Brunswick Service Center, 108 Church Lane, East Brunswick, New Jersey, 08816. Attention, Product Program Department. Thank you for participating in the online training portion of the Cupboard Manager training. If you have any additional questions about managing a volunteer cupboard, please email me, Ginger Haithcox, Product Program Manager, at ghaithcox@gscsnj.org. The next step you'll need to take is an online quiz in order to complete your training. This will also provide us a record That indicates that you have completed training successfully.